I just thought that was kind of dirty, man. Like,
So dirty.
like you can't have people paying for stuff, saying you're gonna kind of make this the formula, and then be like, wait a second, never mind.
Bravo 6. Going dark.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of the Going Dark podcast, episode 7. Chop, how we doing?
Mm-hmm. I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I can't believe we're quickly approaching episode 10. Like, that is unreal. And like, I feel we have a lot to talk about for this one. And this has also sparked a lot of ideas for me that I want to get into in future episodes. But today is a cool one because we're talking about a very debated topic in the Call of Duty community. We're getting into the differences in live service versus the old DLC map pack model. There's been a lot of we want map packs back. There's been a lot of live services better kind of thing. So we're going to unpack all of that, man. We got a lot to get into.
And as we said, episode 7, and we may have been planning a couple things for our episode 10. Maybe we'll have a special guest. I don't know. We're just, we'll throw it out there. And we also have a little bit of something involving Boston Breach, the team that I do content for, coming in a month or two. So the podcast has went from like, let's have some fun to like,
this is a thing that like clearly has an audience for, and like the audience, like y'all have supported the hell out of this, and like it has made us so ecstatic to do this. So I appreciate all the love that y'all have shown this. It's unreal. So
yes.
Thank you for that, just first and foremost. And I think we're only going to attempt to increase the quality of the show that we give you from here on out. And that's our main goal anyways. So yeah, today is, it's one I've been thinking about for a long time because like, gaming has changed so much, not just Call of Duty, but just the whole gaming landscape has shifted into this newer content delivery system that it makes the old Call of Duty map pack system feel very outdated. But I think there's a lot of nuance to discuss about like where a healthy middle ground may be, because I think it's fair to say that not everybody is totally satisfied with the live service model, and it's got its drawbacks. It has negatives associated, but so does the traditional DLC map pack system as well. And I think we are going to try our best to talk about this in a balanced way.
Yeah.
That highlights the perspective of both of these, because I'm sure viewers can think of their own mind what they do and don't like about each system respectively. I'm sure there's a lot of pining for, we need to go back to map packs because they're higher quality, and that's tricky in and of itself. But I guess I'll open this up by asking you a question, like just point blank right now. If someone were to ask you, do you want Call of Duty to be like a live service, where you pay up front but you get free content throughout the year, but that comes with the stipulation of a store and microtransactions, or if you were to go back to paid DLC where you are paying maybe 15, possibly $20 now for a map pack every couple of months, but you're guaranteed this kind of bare minimum standard in it, at the very least. Whether you enjoy the content or not is not really the point, but you're getting this guaranteed amount of stuff every time.
So that legitimately might be one of the hardest questions I've ever been asked in my entire life, because like you said, there's legitimate positives for both and there's legitimate negatives for both. And I think the first thing that I think of, I'm kind of going to beat around the bush for a second. The first thing I think about with DLC is the ability to get guaranteed content every single time. You knew when it was coming. You knew pretty much how many maps you were getting. And I do think it's a different time, though. Like you said, I feel like realistically, I would like a DLC format, but I don't think it works now. So it's like, I don't know if that can even be an answer. Because for me, I loved when the map packs came out. It was like a mid month or whatever you want to call it, 2 months. Like it was like a little bit of a Christmas. I know we had to pay for it, but
It was
like,
like
all
a,
right.
boost.
Yeah, like you got your COD points, your Xbox points, or whatever they called them back in the day, and you're like, all right, it's 1,400 points, and I get 3 brand new multiplayer maps, and then I get a brand new zombies experience, and I'm like, oh, this is so much fun. And a lot of the time, I feel like back in the day, the maps were pretty good. Like they weren't just these piece of crap maps thrown in there. Like, hey, give us. It didn't feel money hungry. It probably was a little money hungry back in the day, but it didn't feel like that. I can tell you a bunch of DLC maps right now that I'm like, holy crap! Like these were great maps. Top of my head, Grind from BO2, Hydro from BO2, where the water came through in the middle of the map, like the dynamic effect. World at War, there was like Bonsai, and I'm trying to think of another one. Now I said I know all these maps, but Nightfall, was it? Nightfall I liked as well. It was Nightfall? Yeah. So I like that. The biggest negative, which we can talk about in more depth, but the biggest negative was not all my friends wanted to buy those DLC maps. And unfortunately, World at War was, I think, the one that really I struggled with it because I love that game so much. So I bought everything involved with it. Well, my friends didn't. And at that time, the game didn't disable the content. So like if I was with a party, it didn't disable it. So if we would load into the game of, what was the map called? Battery, maybe? I just remember Battery being a map, I think. But it was like everybody's screaming the mic, skip, vote to skip. And it's like, oh,
So we
shoot.
get kicked if it didn't get skipped.
You would get kicked. Like my buddies would get kicked. So that's a big drawback for me. But I did like the ability to know I'm getting content. I just think that's such a positive. And I don't mind paying for stuff. I don't mind paying for good stuff. Like I know people are always like, "Oh, you already spent $60 on the game." Yeah, but you're playing it for a year. Like this is a year. Sure. You're paying $60 for a year. So an additional 40 or whatever it was, another additional 60 maybe. It's like, well, it's $120 for a year worth of content. I don't know.
And
seems
so
good.
So I agree, and I think that, at least from what I see, it feels the biggest argument against live service is not the fact that people dislike free content or even that the quality of the content fluctuates, which I think it does, but I think it's the fact that people feel that live service is used as like a scapegoat to release an unfinished game, and then they try to pick up the pieces down the road. It's not like we're making this really banger product and we're going to release this to you for $60, fully finished game. This is standalone. You can play it, as its own thing. But if you like what this offers and you want to go even more into that, then that's what the DLC was for. You would get fundamentally what the base game is, and then like they would build off of that. Whereas it does, to an extent, feel like live services were releasing almost a beta of our game, and then it's going to be a full game by the time it's done.
Yes.
And I think that's people's biggest issue with it, which I definitely understand. It's tricky because people, I think, have this misconception that if we pay for DLC, that automatically makes the content better. I don't think that's the case, even though financially both, Activision and whoever will do better when more DLCs sell well. So thus, developers would be incentivized to make higher quality content, you would think. But it doesn't seem like, DLC sales directly go into the devs' pockets. And I think that Activision has concluded that overall, a live service model with where they offload the cost of paying for map packs, or main like pieces of content can be offloaded onto whales wanting to buy optional microtransactions. And you could say that's very consumer friendly in a way, and I think it is. But I think that there's this kind of idea of like with live service you get like inconsistent dollar store content where it's kind of just like a mishmash of, can be great, it can be not so great. You never really know. There's this whole gradient of where the content could fall at any given point. And you're also not guaranteed a certain volume of content either.
Yeah.
Case in point, zombies. But with DLC, you were generally guaranteed at least one zombies map and 4 multiplayer maps. That was like the gold standard. And, you know, nowadays, if I was getting a new map like every so often, I'd be like, hell yeah, dude. Like, I feel with live service, they're like, well, no new map this time. Maybe next season. It's like,
and
disappointing.
And seasons are 60 days, 90 days or something like that. So it's not like it's like, oh, next season, hopefully we get something. It's in 15 days. It's like 3 months go by.
Yeah.
It's not a short amount of time. Although I do feel like season 3 to season 3 Reloaded felt like it was like two days. I genuinely feel like that. But I don't know. I mean, where I feel like you're almost sounding like you sound like a DLC kind of guy too. Like you not a DLC guy, but like you almost lean that way a little bit.
Yeah, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I tend to resonate with, okay, like, and again, what you said, I thought that was a great point is, and I feel most viewers would agree. I think is that, you know, given that you spend money on the game initially, I would like to spend money on a game that I'm enjoying, you know, to be able to enjoy it more. If you give me something to spend money on that I feel is worth it, that is of value, I will buy it. And I think that's evidence of, again, I'm speaking mostly from like a zombies perspective, but when like Origins comes out on BO2, one of the greatest zombies maps ever made, to buy a map pack that's like, you know, $15 or whatever, like, that is more than worth it. That's a
Chipotle bowl nowadays. You know what I mean? Like,
sure, it's
and you're getting
Starbucks.
5 maps. So
and it's like you're getting this unbelievable quality in this sort of like premium content model. And I'm not sure, but I tend to think that maybe there is more incentive to make something better if it is packaged in a premium,
it's paid for,
like, content package. I don't know, I guess maybe it's like the difference of sitting down at a restaurant and paying for exactly what you want versus going to like a buffet and you pay to get in the door and maybe you find some stuff you like, maybe not. You throw away 90% of it, but that's what it feels like to me. It's like DLC versus live service is like going into a nice restaurant and like paying upfront for what you want specifically.
Yeah.
You can kind of assure its quality in a way. Not always, but usually. We've had some stinker DLCs. I don't want to, say that DLC was like godly all the time. We've had some like bombs, but in a buffet, you pay to get in the door, maybe you eat a little, maybe you eat a lot, maybe you even enjoy it more, but also perhaps not, and perhaps the food makes you sick. I think that's probably the best analogy to lay that out. And if you're a buffet kind of guy, then you're definitely eating, so to speak, in like current Call of Duty. But I think we're missing a little bit of that like premium sit down restaurant experience.
We definitely are. And I think the live service model, I do want to address Modern Warfare 3's live service model, because I talked to you about this prior, and I think they're doing a phenomenal job of making this. But there could be factors in this. So let me break down a couple things first. Number one, just like you said, with not knowing what you're going to get with live service, do you remember Modern Warfare 2 Season 3 or Season 2 versus MW3? There's a breakdown of it. I need to get this to the editor so they can see the difference. I probably already put this in a podcast already, but MW2 had like, Season 2 had like 3 things in it. Like, it was the worst showing of a live service model I've ever seen in my entire life in the Call of Duty sphere, I think. And then you compare it to MW3, and I feel like, truthfully, if MW3 is the baseline, I will switch my opinion to I'm down for live service, because I think that they're doing it the way we all expected it to kind of be back when it kind of got invented in 2019 or 2018 with Fortnite, and then COD embraced it with MW.
We'll talk about BO4 because that is a special case. We'll get to that, but basically like MW19 was the full ushering in of live service for Call of Duty.
So I think that they've done a really good job, and I can't remember the point I was going to make about that, but it was pretty much just going to be, I really do think that they've done such a great job. I mean, especially with the Season 3 Reloaded, I just can't I can't remember the last time we've gotten this much multiplayer love. And the sad part is I'm not really playing the game a ton. Like I'm not playing this COD like I did Cold War, like I did MW19. It's weird, but it's getting the most amount of content. Oh, I remember where I was going to go with it too, but I am playing it, but I'm just saying like it's kind of sad. It's not the game that I haven't fallen in love with MW3. I think it's a good game. I think it's giving us a great amount of content. I think the devs are doing a great job. I just haven't fallen in love with the game like I have in previous CODs. So it's like this weird dynamic of, man, I hope you guys keep doing this for the next COD, because I feel like I'm really going to try to dive into that one and just hope they bring that level of content to it. But oh, that was the one thing I was going to say. With this live service, I want to get your opinion is, do you think that they're doing a better job this year because they had 12 to 14 maps already I mean, how long I'm not a developer, so I apologize if you are a developer watching this, but how much does it take to port those maps over to be playable? I'm sure they've done a ton of work. I'm not discrediting that, but they have the baseline. There's no creation going on. It's more just like importing type of vibe. So how much does that play a factor into, okay, we already got 12, 14, 16 maps to give these people. We only got to really make 5 banger maps this whole entire life cycle. Let's just give them the best of the best. Because every COD, there's always a couple stinkers in every COD. We're like, what the heck was this? But you always have at least 3, 4 where you're like, man, if we could get all of them like this, we'd be cooking. But I feel like this year with MW3, they're cooking, but they've only had to create 3, 4 brand new maps, So it's like, that's another thing I think about. Like, is the next live service one where they actually have to create new maps for the game and then new maps coming in after? Will it fall back to what MW2 did?
Sure. The interesting thing is like, this is, I'm not entirely sure back end how this went, but there were rumors, and I think very substantial ones, that they have had the OG Modern Warfare 2 maps already remastered since I believe 2018. I think
that sounds
maybe 2017.
Yeah,
but I think 2018. But those maps may have already been like more or less done. Like I'm sure they updated it for like MW3's engine or whatever. But those maps may have already been done like 5-6 years ago. Possibly, that allegedly.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sure they polished it, did some work to it for sure. But I think that it's undeniable they were ahead of the curve with being able to release a bunch of these already designed classics. They didn't have to design the map. They just need to update the visuals and make them work for the new game, which I'm sure is still a lot of work, but not as much work as building a map from the ground up. And that's true. And I think even with Black Ops 6, the idea is that they're bringing in a whole bunch of older Black Ops maps into that game, so they're already made, whatever. I think that will help them be ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
And so what you're getting at is like, when you release something that is already, I think people are down for live service when it's in the context of we're releasing a full-on game or like a completed product, and then on top of that you're going to get free stuff. I mean, who doesn't like that? But it's kind of like, but you can't really avoid that sort of like buffet / like dollar store dynamic. Like, and when I think about it, that's why I feel people attached to so strongly these older Call of Duties. Like when you think about your friends and stuff, or just people who like, you think about people that rant and rave about their favorite restaurants. You ever like talk to somebody that they have a favorite buffet? I don't know.
I hate buffets, man. I hate buffets.
Me too. I'm not a fan. Exactly. And like, I don't know anybody personally that dies on the hill of buffets. And I think they're harder to attach to than something like a sit-down restaurant or a sit-down premium DLC kind of thing. And maybe it's not the best analogy, but that's the best I can come up with for right now. But I think being ahead of the curve, releasing a full product first and foremost should be the priority. And then if we get the equivalent of what would be map pack expansions quality-wise in a live service model, I don't know anybody who would complain about that. But more often than not, that's not what we're getting. We're getting this kind of like inconsistent, haphazard, like, this is what we managed to come up with in this long. Like, you get what you get.
I genuinely feel like I've said this in every podcast episode, but I'm going to keep saying it till it happens in real life. Warzone needs to be its own thing, its own
Amen,
launcher.
Brother.
And I think that could be, I guess, a little bit of a solution where if Warzone's its own thing, it's free to play, the battle pass, all that crap is over there, the live service model's over there. You bring Call of Duty back to being campaign multiplayer zombies, and then you release a DLC. I don't know if there's enough people for that, but I just feel like if their main goal is to make a bunch of money, you got the live service folks, and you might be able to give the skins on the multiplayer side of things too if you want to buy them. Have the skins available over here. We are also going to be giving you 4 multiplayer maps and a zombies map every quarter, so it's coming. And then that whole live service crap goes to Warzone and lets that be over there, because
They
just
could kind
think
of double dip, honestly.
they want to make money. The goal of Call of Duty and Activision and Microsoft is to make money. Okay, well, let me tell you how you can make money. You just have to hire more people in the beginning and create more content for us. I don't know. It's almost like what we do. If I hire an editor and I hire a thumbnail guy, I'm able to get more of these podcasts out. We're able to put more stuff out. If I have to do it or you have to do it, the episodes don't come out as quick. So I think it's the same thing with employees. You get more employees that can work on maps and live service stuff over here, and then you can just pump content out. And yes, it might be a little pricey in the beginning, but you know how business works. You pay, you put in, and then if you're doing a good job, it reaps
the
rewards.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I just think you could definitely 100% make even more money that you're already making now. Because I think the multiplayer people are still going to go buy Cheech and Chong. They're still going to go buy Nicki Minaj and all that stuff. But I'm also, additionally, if I'm getting 4 new maps and I know they're good, I'll pay $15. I 100% will.
If I'm paying money for content, like, I want to be able to pay for content I like. I think everybody would agree with that. You fundamentally want to spend money on something that you like and find worth your time. Nobody has a problem with that. But people are like, imagine, if we had to pay money upfront for what we're getting in live service, people would be like, no, because I don't want this stuff. Like, if I, when a roadmap comes out, and for me, it's 90% Warzone, I'm like, it's the buffet. 90% of it is irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
There's one little dish that I like.
You're allergic to half of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I'm not paying that money up front to have the stuff I'm going to throw away. That's just not worth it. But I think your solution is pretty smart. We're like, if they, again, I will preach it, clean break from Warzone, that could be the split. They could have their whole live service Fortnite-esque, live service model. They can do whatever the hell they want with that. And then make Call of Duty a premium experience again. And you could double dip. You really could.
Who doesn't want to double dip?
All right, that's what I'm saying. Like, God, it feels like the answer is right there, but having them so like attached to each other is like, it's almost like parasitic for both of them. And I think that is like where the unhealthy dynamic of Call of Duty and Warzone really is right now.
Yeah.
It feels like Warzone, and I mean no disrespect to like Warzone fans, but it feels like Warzone is almost like a parasite on Call of Duty and is like stripping its resources away from potentially other really cool parts of the game.
Yeah, they went all in, and now it feels like the battle royale genre is kind of slowing down. I don't want to say dying, because I don't think it's dying. I still think people love battle royale, but I think it's pivoting a little bit. I think that, again,
it's very saturated now.
I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I switched from Verdansk to Rebirth Island very, very early. Very early in the there was a couple people before me that did it. But when I played Rebirth Island, I said, this is Call of Duty with BR. I knew it. I just knew the type of player Call of Duty players are. We need that quick action, but we loved the battle royale winning a game. We loved that like tension at the end. So I'm like, they got it. They nailed it. And it's taken them now probably 4 years to figure out like, wow, this is what people want. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I just think it's the fact of, I don't think battle royales are dying. So you still have to keep your people over there. But I think they put so much eggs in the basket of like, we gotta do Warzone that we kind of fell apart on the other ends, as you can tell.
100%.
And now they need to kind of like, I think they're balancing it. Like I said, with MW3, it feels minus zombies, minus campaign. I guess they aren't balancing it now that I say that out loud, but I guess from a multiplayer standpoint, they're at least turning it around and going, okay, people still care about multiplayer. Let's show some support. So now we just got to hope that they do that for every category. You know, oh, people still like zombies. Let's show it some support. People like playing the campaign. We just realized we got review bombed because people were like, wow, I do enjoy the campaign. Let's make a good campaign. So to summarize, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Spread them out.
They're pulling and don't pull the eggs out of like the pillars that made your game what it was.
Hire people.
You built Call of Duty on these 3 pillars of campaign, MP, zombies. And yeah, I understand Warzone is like an incredible moneymaker and is very popular, but I don't think pulling the resources and eggs out of all of those other pillars to support Warzone, like your structure is gonna like crumble on itself at that point.
Yeah.
Like you've gotta make it its own separate thing and allow the resources and attention and time to be the supports for those, things that the whole franchise was built on.
So I want to bring up
when I think about it, go ahead.
I want to bring up a tough question to you. I want you to answer this. What do you do about the DLC conundrum of my buddies don't have the DLC? Yes, of course, you just turn it off and you don't play. But how does that invite people to want to buy it? Because if my buddy's not, you know how the world is. If me and you are playing a game, you're like, dude, I'm going to buy this DLC. And I go, no, I don't want it. Then you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe then I won't buy the DLC because we're not even going to get to play it together. So
or it's like, yeah, I want to play this map. It's like, oh, dude, I don't have the map.
Yeah. So I just remember that being a little bit of a factor back in the day of like, dang it, like my friends don't want to buy this. I do. Okay, now if I want to play these maps, I got to play them solo, which I don't know about you. I feel like Call of Duty's not a solo game. It's a game that you want to play with friends. Short campaign and stuff. Yeah, you can play solo, but I just always think it's a community-based type of game where we're with the boys. We're playing with the boys. And now you can't. So, but why? It's like, do you want to buy that? That's the balance. That's the tug and pull or whatever you call it.
Yeah. Because like with all of the upsides that the like premium DLC model would have, that is a tough one. Is like, what do you do about, okay, now you're number one, like the effect of separating your friends is one thing, but then also you think about older Call of Duty games trying to go back and play this on console. You cannot play the DLC maps anymore. Like the player base is not healthy enough to foster. You can maybe play team deathmatch on like the base maps, but you from MP, you can't play the MP maps in like a full lobby anymore because there just aren't enough players that have the DLC that are in the player pool.
Yeah.
So in that way, the content kind of dies out eventually. And also, yeah, you can run the risk of maybe not being able to play with your friends because they don't have that. I don't have the answer to that, but what I do remember is like you remember the Black Ops Pass with BO4?
I absolutely remember the Black Ops Pass. Who can forget?
That was one of the things of all time. That was them trying to bridge the gap between live service and like traditional DLC.
Yeah.
And I think it had a lot of room for improvement, but I see what they were getting at. Unfortunately, it did still have the problem, at least for me, where zombie maps could be like people don't have them. But you could buy the maps individual. Like you could buy. I'm pretty sure you could buy just a zombies map, which you weren't able to do before.
Yeah.
You would have to buy even if you didn't play multiplayer at all. Like if you just want to play Mob of the Dead back in BO2, you would still have to buy the what was it, Awakening map pack? I think it was a BO3 one. I don't remember what it's called. But you'd have to buy the whole map pack just to get the zombies. But in BO4, they tried to do it where like you can just buy the pieces that you want. You don't have to buy all the multiplayer. You can just buy a zombies map. I don't really know how to improve on that. Like the Black Ops Pass clearly didn't work for everyone. But I almost feel like that was the closest we got to bridging the gap there.
I kind of like that, honestly. I think that's kind of a if there's a really, really good zombies map out there and the people don't want to spend 30 on the map pack, but they'll buy that individual map, number one, you're still making money, Call of Duty, so that's cool. And you're not giving it away for free. People are still having to pay for it.
True.
And, it's one of those things. It's just like any other game. Like, if the word gets out that something is banger, people spread it like wildfire. Like,
Helldivers.
The Helldivers, Fortnite, Warzone when it first came out. Like, if something is obtainable, I mean, Divers is a good point too, because that's a paid game. Like, you don't think about paid games anymore. You go, oh, it's probably free. It wasn't. It was a paid game. So
did Helldivers outsell Call of Duty this year?
Man, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. Well, maybe it would surprise me a little bit because of just how big Call of Duty is, but I don't know, man. Like I said,
I don't think it did, but it got pretty close.
It spreads like wildfire, man. And like, if there's a zombies map that's $9.99 and everybody's talking about it, you're making videos on it, all these zombies guys are making videos on it, you're telling me that can't make a quick couple million? Because everybody, including myself, I'd go, wow, $9, I'll go try this zombies map if it's that good,
right?
And you could do that with campaign, like, I think
it's like the restaurant thing. You like,
give me the finished campaign. Don't beat around the bush. Don't go, and this is going to continue in the DLC. Don't do that. But if you give me a finished campaign and it's like, hey, there's some side missions over here, or whatever. Like, I mean, the first game I could think of is Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, and then the Miles Morales came out. To me, that was a DLC. Like, it was a DLC game. But they still charged $40 for it. But you also felt like you were getting your worth because it was a brand new story and more missions, and so it's just that balance of people will pay. People will pay.
And if they know what they're getting is going to be great, then they will pay for it. And it's okay. So it one of those things that you just said, it made me think of, like, you are way more likely to go to a restaurant that your friend recommends than you are to, like, go to a restaurant that you saw on, like, a billboard or something. If your friend is like,
you gotta try this,
how fire this thing is, then you're like, yeah, I'll go try it out. And Call of Duty needs the, like, word of mouth spreading again.
They need that so bad.
They've been neglecting that so hard. And it's also like what you said, people will pay money for something that will be just fundamentally good. Like Elden Ring's DLC is coming out next month. And that DLC, it's DLC, not live service. That DLC pack is $40. Pretty hefty for like a map pack. It's not really a map pack, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's an expansion of the game. But I would pay 60 for it, bro. Like 40, I'm like, I know what we're going to be getting is more than enough value to justify $40. I bought it right away. I'm like, no problem, because I know based on the quality of what I played in their base game, I have no doubt it will be just as good, if not better, than the base game. And Call of Duty needs that. People are like, oh, rightfully so. I think people feel that the best content that modern Call of Duty offers is already on disc, and the live service is like hit or miss.
Yeah.
But DLC, in a lot of cases, can like transcend the base game. Speaking from like a zombie,
I just think of BO2. I just think, dude, I'm telling you, I think of Grind as one of my favorite maps of all time. That is a DLC map. Weaponized 115 is a DLC skin. I think about it all the time. And I think, going back to your single player thing, I'm pretty sure God of War just did this too, right? They had at a random announcement where it was I had to look this up, or
it was a free to play DLC. It was Valhalla. I played it. It was really good.
So,
but it was totally free.
Okay, well, that's wild. That's crazy. But would you have paid for it, I guess, is the question I'm thinking. Like, I feel like the single player games, I truly feel like right now the gaming world is going through this, like, everybody loves single player right now. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just feel like everything that single player games are doing is the right move. Everything's the right move. They're making. I was gonna say they're making banger games, and then they're doing a good DLCs or free DLCs that are games.
I think it shows this like innate desire for what I'm going to call like the sit down restaurant premium experience. Like people are yearning for that, whether they realize that or not. Like,
Yeah.
I think people are getting sick of like dollar store buffets, and they're like, man, I just want something like real delicious.
Good.
Again, you know? Yeah.
I want to sit down and be fed.
Yeah. And that's what single player games are doing. Like they're absolutely eating like so many great single player games out this year and last year. Like that's what I've been playing most of, honestly. I've my like multiplayer game repertoire right now is like maybe 30% of like my overall gaming right now.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of single player stuff. But that to me is because I've had this innate yearning for, I wanted to sit down and like have something real good.
Yeah.
You know? And not that multiplayer games can't do that because they have before. And not that Call of Duty can't do it because they clearly have. But I tend to think that this is an Activision decision, and it's not necessarily like Treyarch being like, you know, this is how we want to do it. This is for sure like a top-down thing to an extent, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I think Warzone is a big key part of that.
Yeah, and I want to go to I want to talk a little bit more about live service, because I feel like you said, it's a really good point. When you get that roadmap that COD tweets or Charlie Intel tweets, and you look at it and you go, I don't really want half of this stuff. Like, that's the disappointing thing for me with the live service stuff, is I wish we knew every update we were going to get blank, 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 blank. And I think every time we open that roadmap, we just guess. We're like, okay, It might have a zombies map. It might have a multiplayer map. It might have a Warzone update. Now I feel like we talked about this in the previous podcast or the one before. Urzikstan in this Season 3 Reloaded, which is the big Warzone map, it got nothing. Legitimately got nothing. Like, the people that play the big map are like, okay, like what? Now they're getting a taste of what you got with zombies this past, year and a half or whatever. So it's like, I just feel like with the live service model, there's always somebody going, is that
what about
it?
me?
Yeah. What about me? Because the big map people have been complaining this whole year, that it's a 100-player map. It's always felt slow. People have wanted 125, 150 players. Changing of POIs like they did back in Verdansk in the Cold War era, of like buildings changing, the map staying similar, but the POIs kind of moving around, new POIs, adjusted POIs. There's been nothing. Like, there's been no adjustments to the games. Kind of the same way they did with Warzone 2.
Why is that? Is it because there aren't like many people playing that map?
I think they're like I said, I think they're going Resurgence. I think they know Resurgence. You got to look at Resurgence side of things. You have Rebirth Island, you have Fortune's Keep coming back, you have Vondel, you have Ashika Island. I'm assuming there's going to be a new Resurgence map for Black Ops 5 or 6, whatever it's going to be. So at that point, you have like the rotating Apex vibe at that point in time. You have 5 maps that you can play on rotation. I mean, that's almost like a multiplayer game inside of a Resurgence game. And
sure.
So I don't know. I think the big map is not what Call of Duty players play anymore. And I'd actually, if you're still listening this far in, like, when's the last time you played the big map? Because I always do polls on my Instagram. Are you still playing, or not on my Instagram, on my YouTube community page? Are you still playing Warzone? No. I'm talking 70, 80% say no. And it's like, I'm playing Fortnite. I'm playing this. I'm coming back when Rebirth comes out. So I don't know. I just think Rebirth was a huge, when they removed that, man, I don't think they realized the damage that was going to do. And
that is that's the other problem.
I don't think that they realize, oh crap, like, yeah, you can remove people's skins. They'll be mad for a little bit. Yeah, you can remove whatever. But when you remove memories from people's heads from the Verdansk era and the Rebirth era, everybody's favorite time in Modern Warfare 19 and Cold War was, though, if you're a Warzone guy, was playing those 2 maps.
Sure. And
you stripped it from them. Like, I would like to use the MP5 again. Yeah, I'd like to use this gun again. But I'm not like,
You're not bent out of shape about that.
I'm down for new guns. I think that needs to be an evolution, but I just think, man, bring these maps and have new maps as well coming out, but just stay rotation and then change POIs. That's part of the live DLC model, is changing, or not live DLC, live service is changing POIs and crap. But I'm ranting now. So
no, the thing you brought up a second ago was the other really big hole that I somehow like slipped my mind. The other really big hole in live service is the fact that, yeah, this model allows them to bring in and remove content at their own whim. This is something that, I've been going through with like Destiny recently. Is Destiny, for a lot of complicated reasons, will just straight up vault content. Entire planets will be vaulted. Raids, strikes will just be gone from the game, and they can pull them at any point. Where in traditionally speaking, Call of Duty, when you get a DLC pack, when you get it in the game, it's there. Like if you paid for that and it's installed in the game,
it's not going nowhere.
It's not going anywhere. They're not going to take it away from you. They're not going to rotate it out. Like you get to, in some sense, keep the content you paid for. Where in a live service structure game, and again, this is what drives me up a wall with Destiny, is like things that I like, or planets and strikes and raids that I like, can be pulled and are vaulted at any given time. And it's like, it feels really bad to no longer have access to the content that you paid for and liked. And that is like a sin. That's like a blight on, live service, as it were. And that is something that the DLC model really traditionally, I don't think has ever really had that problem. The whole ability to like own what you paid for.
You're exactly right. Do you remember back when they took away all that stuff? Like, like I said, I think people have already gotten over it, but
sure.
I just thought that was kind of dirty, man. Like,
so dirty. Like,
you can't have people paying for stuff, saying you're going to kind of make this the formula, and then be like, wait a second, never mind. And not like poor. And the worst part about it was that you could buy Snoop Dogg, and then Snoop Dogg comes around again.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine buying Snoop Dogg in Vanguard and then buying Snoop Dogg again? Like, they remove it. Buy Snoop Dogg. Okay, cool. Okay, we're gonna take it back. Brand new skin is Snoop Dogg. It's like, what? So pretty much the way they did live service in MW2, the way they handled everything in MW2 was literally the worst possible way you could.
That was
literally the worst possible way.
Maybe the worst live service of Call of Duty.
Worst live service, worst game, worst everything, in my opinion. So, but that's the thing. The problem now is they're fighting an uphill battle with MW3. Like I said, MW3's done a great job on everything except for. And like I say, we're talking about campaign and zombies. It's because this whole thing was rushed. There's factors. I'm talking about after the game came out, what have they done? And I think that they've done a pretty good job in terms of MP and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just
100%.
So I just think we need to expect this type of live. If we want live service to be the end all be all like they want it to be, do this. Do what we've been doing.
And also another point that I thought of while you're saying that, a game can be so different from how it launches by the time it's reached like its final season, that it's almost like, so I think about this in the context of like last year when I was doing a lot of my like Call of Duty reviews, I would, play the entire game all the way through. And then, what I was realizing is that it's a lot harder to review a live service Call of Duty game, because I'm not sure if what I'm talking about is even going to be correct or relevant in about like a week.
I was going to say in a month.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the game can be so different from the time that I talk about it to the time that I post the video.
Yeah.
That it may not even be the same. It may not even be the same game. And I've had a hard time like talking about and reviewing these more live service Call of Duty games because they're not their own standalone product that I can judge on. This is what the game is basis. Like, it can change at any point. They can take stuff out. They can add things in. And it makes Call of Duty feel like very fickle. and
Yeah.
almost like unstable in a way. And I think that's my problem with Destiny, and that's also my problem with Call of Duty.
Well, and I think they've shot themselves in the foot too with how they got rid of I know I said people moved on from buying skins. I don't know. There's probably stats to back up that they've sold so many things that I'm probably wrong as can be, but I don't know about you. We've talked about this. I haven't bought anything. And the reason I haven't bought anything is I don't think it's I have no evidence to prove this, but I feel like Gulf War, Black Ops 6, I think it's going to be a fresh restart again. I don't know why. So it's like, why am I going to buy, unless they figured out a way to import the skins and bring them over. Maybe they did figure that out now, but I've heard clean break on Gulf War and Black Ops 6. So again, why am I buying Snoop Dogg again? They'll just release him again in Gulf War. So it makes me not want to buy anything, because some of these skins, I'm not gonna lie, I've been like, I got some COD points. You know, I could buy this skin. It's kind of cool. But then I go, number one, I don't.
It's going to be irrelevant.
Number one, I don't see it. And number two, it could be gone by October.
Sure. I don't know. Maybe this is crazy. I would be in favor of a clean break in that way from like the microtransaction side, and also if they were to clean break in other ways, like I would be all for it. Like y'all, if you're gonna make that decision, go all in on it and like commit to that.
Yeah.
And I think you'd have a lot of people praising you for, taking that big step. And that would also help you rekindle some kind of identity in your game too, which would be really nice for a change.
Yeah.
I would personally love to see them lean into that a little bit more. I mean, it's a Black Ops game, for God's sake. Like, I want it to feel like a Black Ops game again.
It's been 4 years since a Treyarch game. Like, let's just make this like the kickoff. Like, let's start this new era of Call of Duty that they advertised back in MW2. Like, let's be serious this time. Let's do the
new era.
Let's do the new era.
Didn't work. Let's try the new era, and maybe we'll be off to a good start.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get back to what people preferred, and I think this made me think of. I think the whole purpose or the reason that we have nostalgia for old Call of Duty is, in some sense, built on the fact that they got something right, and we didn't know how to articulate that in the moment, but we can feel that they got something right then. And now we can look retrospectively and be like, oh, I actually really liked when they did this thing, and I don't know why I liked it, but it was right. And that's what we're kind of trying to do on this podcast. That's what all nostalgia is trying to do, because you're not nostalgic about everything from that era, but you're nostalgic about certain, exactly, 100%. But you're nostalgic about certain aspects that you're like, I don't know why, but this felt right to me. Yeah. And so maybe let's try and figure that out and bring that into the future. I think that's the whole point.
I could wrap there if you want to wrap there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, this is all to say, I don't really have a solution to the live service or DLC model. Again, I think it's a very complicated issue. I don't know if you have any potential solutions. I think the Black Ops Pass was not the fix, but I almost kind of like that idea of being able to bridge the gap between those two systems.
I like DLC. I don't like DLC certain things. I like live service. I like DLC more than I like live service, but I know in the long run it won't work with friendships and all that stuff, because again, you play together. I like the buy individual thing. Like, hey, we're gonna do a live service. We're also gonna do a couple things extra if you want to pay. I think that would get them roasted, though. I got to be honest. If Call of Duty came out and said we got a $20 season pass and we're also going to release more content for $9.99 per map, I don't think they make it out of that one. So I
think that would get them into trouble.
I think that would get them in trouble too. So I don't, like you said, I don't really have a solution. I don't think this pass is going anywhere. But I do think if you're going to do the pass, please make it consistent in what is coming out and be across the board. I just keep thinking of what you said. Like you saw the last one and you're like, okay, like 95% of this doesn't apply to me. Why should I be excited about this new season 3 Reloaded? You really shouldn't be. So keep it more spread out, more even. You know, one map pack, one map change on Warzone, one zombies thing, and then maybe something related to campaign. I don't know. I'd be down for some DLC to the campaign.
Minimum quality and volume of content bar across the board. I don't think that's asking for too much, but that would alleviate, I don't know, 70% of my issues with live service. So minimum bar of quality and volume. That's it.
I mean, just one more point is like, I don't know about you, but when more content comes out, it makes everybody else content creator wise, my job gets way easier because I know I have stuff I can cover now. And then from a gamer perspective, me just playing the game, I'm going, wow, I get to play something new. So it's just positive everywhere. You know, the more content, the better. It's kind of like with me with YouTube. I feel like when I'm putting out good, consistent content, it's when you see the most growth. You see everybody like we love it. You know, sure,
and you feel that you're doing something right.
Yep. You can, of course, you can take a route of one video every 6 months and it's an absolute banger, and that's great too. But I think that's more like a campaign comparison, like a single player game comparison. Sure. Like you're making one banger every 3 years. But like Call of Duty's not, it's a every year game. So you gotta spice that bad boy up a little bit to stay in the talks of people, in the minds of people throughout the year.
Yeah. You stay in the minds of people, then you also are way more likely to be spread via word of mouth because people are talking about the game. And that's ultimately how Call of Duty grew initially. And I think they would benefit off a lot more of that in the future. I hope they can manage it.
Well, Chop, that's episode 7, my friend. Real quick, guys, if you made it this far, we're just going to keep plugging the Spotify, Apple. If you can, leave us a review. We're approaching 100 reviews on Spotify and maybe 30 or 40 on Apple. So if you got time, scroll up, scroll down, whatever it is on whatever platform you're on, hit the 5-star. Listen, you know, I'm a little biased in saying this could be the best podcast of all time, but
Nate Shot said it actually.
Nate Shot said that actually, probably. He said that. I think he said it somewhere. I don't know. I have to figure out which stream. I'll find the clip and I'll show it later. But yeah, make sure you can leave a review for us if you can. That helps us out. If you're watching these on YouTube, commenting, letting us know what kind of episodes you want to see next, liking the video. I don't ever plug liking the video, but I know it does help. So, you know,
it helps.
Like the video.
And it's free too. It takes like 1 second, you know.
One second clip of your time. I'm trying to think of anything else, Chop.
Well, we have some special announcements very soon.
Yes.
Stay tuned for that. And again, you know, if you want to hear more of us yapping, we have our own personal channels as well. If you want to delve into our own individual content, that's a great place to go as well. And yeah, I just want to say thank you everybody for spending your time with us. Again, I just know it's very valuable and I really appreciate it. I'm sure Tdawg as well. And yeah, we love it. So got some cool stuff on the way. Always be looking out for it, and we'll see you soon.
All right, y'all. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bravo 6. Going dark.